Now we're live. Come on, Tom. It's your turn.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Big Red Sports Network. And there's your brother right there, Mr. Joshua Dula, the big red man himself.
You're too busy trying to pump up my ego. You know exactly what you need to do to stick around here, Tom. That's a good
Oh,
thing.
well, Mr. BS.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. This is Josh, Big Red Live. Joining with me, coaches Tom Harper and Tim McMahon. This week, we will be talking about Week 8 and then previewing Week 9. We were going to have a special guest tonight, but unfortunately, an emergency came up and won't be able to make it tonight. So, hoping nothing too serious. And we hope to have Coach Glass on in the near future. Coaches, how are y'all doing this evening?
How you doing, Coach Mac?
I'm doing fine. Doing good. Glad to be here.
Me too. Blessed in every way.
Oh, good to hear. So we're going to talk about some scores from this past week. Obviously, we got some of these scores here. I'm going to read them off. You had Alexander Central over McDowell, 30-28. Watauga over South Caldwell, 56-0. Freedom over St. Stephen's, 28-21. And some other scores from around the area. And it's the common trend that we've kind of seen over the past few weeks where you kind of had a skew in some of the scores where there's been a lot of blowouts. But there's also been some high-quality games this past week, too, where you had, for example, one game I talked about last week as a highlight game to talk about, Lincolnton and Shelby. That one turned out to be a double overtime thriller between those two teams. And then you also had some other solid games from around the area, like Highland Tech over Bessemer City, Cherville over East Gaston, Irwin over Inca, West Wilkes over Starmount, Madison over Polk County, and some other ones that were relatively close in the area. But Coach Harper, me and you were at St. Stephen's on Friday night. What was your thoughts on the Freedom Patriots victory at St. Stephen's?
Well, my biggest question going into that game, or questions when I decided to go to that game, was one, how good really was St. Stephen's? And two, after an emotional, tough loss the week before, how was the Freedom Patriots going to react? And I thought on both questions, I thought St. Stephen's, was very competitive, much more physical than in the past. And I thought they brought it to the Patriots. But then the Patriots, I thought, did a great job of showing a lot of character and resilience. The St. Stephen's guys just kept battling, and Freedom was coming right back with doing their thing. And I think we both saw some turnovers that were questionable, and but I was really impressed with Freedom pulling out a win at a game that was a homecoming that a lot of the kids could have been carrying that loss from Watauga, and I didn't feel like they did.
Absolutely. My first thing I want to say is this, right? I've been to St. Stephen's as a fan. I've been to St. Stephen's as a player, and I've been to St. Stephen's as now a member of the media. And I tell you what, it doesn't get any different with the atmosphere down there at St. Stephen's. I ain't gonna lie, hearing that tomahawk chop from that band, you couldn't tell the difference between that marching band and Florida State. It was actually pretty cool to hear that.
I would love to see a competition between the announcer at St. Stephen's and the announcer at Freedom High School, because those two do a great job of generating a lot of excitement, and it would be interesting to see that competition.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to talk about was this for Freedom. Freedom did come out the gates a little bit slow. They had the first initial touchdown drive to come out, but then they kind of struggled a little bit against St. Stephen's run game. They had a lot of success with St. Stephen's had a lot of success on the ground with running backs Izzy Payne, Jairus Chisholm, and even Maddox Zablon coming in, get some big yardage plays. And St. Stephen's, they were just playing, the take what we can get type mentality, and that was really key to them keeping that game close. And they also played very physical, on defense. They kind of slowed down Freedom's passing attack and kind of forced them to kind of run the football a little bit more, which played kind of the big key factor in Freedom's game-winning drive. Was, more of the production from Freedom's game-winning drive came on the ground game than it did through the air.
That's right. That's what impressed me, is that they didn't have to, you would venture to say that the strength of their team has been the connection between the quarterback and the wideout. But they've got some really good running backs that I think they put it on their shoulders, and it happened.
Absolutely. Coach, do you have any other thoughts about Freedom's win this past week?
No, just impressed with the way they came back from a tough loss, and who they got this week.
Freedom will be at South Caldwell this week.
Okay, well, no comment on that.
Now, Coach Mack, I know you weren't at Freedom on Friday night, but you were actually in South Carolina covering a Gaffney football game. You want to take a time to kind of elaborate on that for a few minutes?
It was a good contest, Josh. Really well, hotly contested, big rival game. Kind of set the inside track for a chance to play for a conference championship. They call them regions down there, but it's the same difference. It's a conference championship. It was a lot of people at that football game. I don't know. We got there early so we could visit with Matt, and I don't know. There was a line 300 or 400 yards waiting at 5:30 to get into the stadium. I thought, it's going to be one of them kind of games. And I don't know how many people have been to the new Gaffney Stadium, but it is not small. And I've been to, I don't know, 10 or 12 games there, and big games, and even some playoff big games. I don't know if I've ever seen a bigger crowd at Gaffney. And really, two teams that really like to run the football. It was a television game. So I wasn't ready for that because they took all those breaks. But thank goodness it ain't the old Gaffney or the old Burns that would throw it 30 times a game, because we may still be down there. But it was a great game. It was a really good game. And Gaffney found a way to win. I thought early on that Burns had the better football team. Gaffney struggled since they lost their great running back, and they've had trouble on offense. But Gaffney made enough plays, and then in the second half kind of took control of the game a little bit and ended up winning by 2 scores. So one thing you learn with Gaffney, they may not be the best Gaffney team, but to go down to Gaffney in a big game and win is not an easy assignment. And they'll move on now. It sets up a big game later in the season with Dorman, which will probably be for that championship of that league.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'll be a big game.
Absolutely.
Atmosphere. I mean, when you get that many people in a stadium, and the people around were estimating, I heard 20. I think it's probably more like about 15,000, but that's a lot of people at a high school game. But it's the most I've seen at a Gaffney game since I've been following them since Matt got there. So about 4 years ago. So it was fun to see. I was a little stressed getting out of that stadium because they kept us around. Gaffney scored with about a minute to go up 2 scores, and we tried to get out of there, but by then it was too late. And
I bet it was better
You weren't-
than the USC game.
So you weren't getting kind of stuck in that situation like you were down at Clemson, were you?
Oh, no, because but honestly, we only had to go about a half a mile back to the main road to get back to 85 because it's right off the main drag, that main exit of Gaffney. But it still took longer than I was accustomed to, and we didn't get back. We didn't pull back into here at about midnight. So yeah, that's a long trip for.
I'm just glad to hear that it wasn't as bad as what we went through.
No, and they won, and everybody was happy coming out of there. And they were talking about. I keep forgetting that that Rico Dowdle, the kid that the player that's having such a good run with the Panthers now, that it's gone over 200 yards total offense in 2 consecutive games. Kept hearing his name, like Rico, and I had to keep telling myself he is a Gaffney kid. He transferred to Reynolds after his 9th grade year. His mom had to move, well, didn't have to. She moved to Asheville, and so there's a lot of people still. He grew up. He was born and raised in Gaffney, so that was kind of interesting. Think, good gosh, what if they'd had him back in high school? Because they were really good then anyway. So
they didn't need him.
Yeah, no, they didn't, because they won 2. I think they won a couple 2 state championships during the time.
Question: are they good enough to win a state championship?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think they. It's just early in the season they played Dutch Fork in a jamboree and they won the half, but they scrimmaged well and that game could if it's a full game it's a toss up like it always is, but they lost their best player. They can't throw it, and I don't think you can beat Dutch Fork and several other teams. They may can find a way to get out of the upper state, but at this point I'd say no. I don't think they throw it well enough.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the games that we got coming up this week. We have we're starting to get to the very latter portion of the North Carolina high school football season, and you got about 3 weeks remaining at this point, and a lot of talk is starting to be coming into the picture about playoff implications on all these games, especially when it comes to seeding. We know seeding always becomes very important based on the classifications and stuff. So without further ado, let's actually take a look at some of these games that we have going on this week. So here's a few games that we have going on in the area this coming up week. We're going to start off with the Western Highlands Conference. You got Hendersonville at Avery County, Madison at Owen, Mitchell at Mountain Heritage. In the MAC, you have the AC Reynolds at North Buncombe. You have TC Roberson at Inca, Irwin at Asheville. The Western Piedmont Conference, you have RS Central at High Brighton. This one is definitely a game to look out for this week, RS Central at High Brighton. That's going to have some implications near the top of the conference. Then you also have East Rutherford at Patton, Drawn at West Caldwell. This one's going to be a big game for West Caldwell right here, too, because as of right now, according to high school OT, West Caldwell is currently one of the last 5 teams in the 3A bracket. So a win here for West Caldwell at home this week would do dividends for them trying to push themselves back into the playoff picture comfortably.
You hear about it. It's been a long time since you've heard West Caldwell and playoffs. So
yeah, that would be a big deal. Then you also have East Burke at Chase for the Western Foothills Conference. You have the biggest game, I would probably say, in the area this coming up week. You got Hickory at East Lincoln. Going to be 7-1 Hickory versus undefeated East Lincoln. These two teams have been on a tear this year. And, Hickory dropped the first game of the season to South Point in a shocker, but ever since then, Hickory has just been dominating week in and week out. Even when you look back 2 weeks ago when they played Maiden, they were down 21-7 in that game. Then they scored 31 unanswered to win that game pretty comfortably. So, it's going to be a really interesting game between Hickory and East Lincoln this coming up week. You also have Ford at Bunker Hill, Newton Conover at West Iredell, Maiden at Bandy's, a big rivalry game there in Catawba County. In the Northwestern 6A, 7A, you have Freedom at South Caldwell, St. Stephen's at McDowell. I have that one marked as a game of interest to watch this week, St. Stephen's at McDowell, and then Watauga at Alexander Central. In the Southern Piedmont Conference, you have Shelby at East Gaston, Highland Tech at West Lincoln, Cherville at Burns, and then Lincolnton at Kramer. Lincolnton coming off that big win against Shelby. They kind of control their own destiny now in this conference moving forward, so taking care of business week in and week out is the goal for Lincolnton at this point.
Kramer's a pretty good team, aren't they?
Yeah, Kramer did play Shelby relatively close, so this is an opponent that Lincolnton cannot take lightly.
Yeah.
Did that Shelby Crest Lincoln game come down to a missed extra point?
No, so it went to overtime, tied at 27, and basically Lincolnton got the ball last. They scored, they went for 2, they got it, and they won the game.
Wow. Okay.
Great game between those two teams, and I knew it was going to be a great game.
Yep.
In the Mountain Valley Conference, you got North Wilkes at Starmount, East Wilkes at Ashe County, Wilkes Central at Allegheny, Elkin at West Wilkes, and then in the Big South, you have Kings Mountain at South Point. That is a game of interest to look at for there. Then North Gaston at Crest and Ashbrook at Forest View. Coaches, you take a look at this schedule this week. There's a lot of big games on here. So what kind of stands out to you?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but who beat Kings Mountain this last week?
It was Ashbrook.
Either Kings Mountain has gone downhill a little bit or Ashbrook is really good, because you just said one of the games of the week to highlight is Kings Mountain at South Point. I was a little bit surprised that they beat Kings Mountain that bad. Is Ashbrook really, really good?
Ashbrook is really good this year.
They were good last year. They were picked. They came in second last year, and they were picked second behind Crest in that league. So Kings Mountain really was not supposed to have as good a year as they're having, and surprised people. Their best running back I saw Friday night is a starting running back now. Well, at Gaffney, he transferred down to Gaffney, and he is a load, that kid. And so I thought, but they've got a really good running back. I saw, when they beat Shelby, I watched that game and on the highlights of YouTube, and I tell you what, they've got a good running back. So Ashbrook's got a good foot. I wonder, is Ashbrook and Crest play the last game of the year?
I don't know as of right now, but I would assume it'd have to be they have to play each other somewhere within the next 3 weeks.
And I don't remember seeing an Ashbrook and South Point score.
Yeah.
So they have both of those left, and that's going to probably. I know South Point lost to Crest, and so we'll see if Ashbrook can knock off South Point. That's going to set up down the road a great game.
Absolutely. And if you look at the Western Foothills Conference per se, this conference this week is going to have a lot of good games. I mean, I could see, Hickory and East Lincoln being a really good game. Ford at Bunker Hill could definitely be a good game. Ford has kind of went under the radar this year as kind of like a team that's been kind of overlooked in this conference, but they've been solid despite, their record. Their record is more deceiving than how good this team actually is. And then you got Newton Conover at West Iredale. Newton Conover's having a real good year, and West Iredale started off the season, I believe they were 4-0, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But they started off the season really good, and these two teams meet now here at this point in the season. And, in this Western Foothills Conference, I had a discussion with Tom the other day, my father, and I told him, I said, this could be potentially one of the conferences where you see somewhere between 4 or 5 teams make the postseason, because they've got a lot of talented teams in this particular conference. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I understand that. Does Ford have a chance or Bunker Hill have a chance to make the playoffs?
It really depends on the specific, their specific records. I do believe that I looked at the other day, and I believe there's 4 teams in this conference that have 4 wins or more.
I think the discussion, in my opinion, about that conference is the job that Matt Wilson has done at Newton Conover. That team has shown some spurts of looking like the Newton Conover of old. When Don Patrick and Nick Basil were coaching there, I'm impressed with the way his kids play. So, and anytime you play Maiden at Bandy's or Bandy's at Maiden, it's going to be a barn burner. So.
Yeah, well, here's what I want to say right now. I might share this on the screen just for a little bit of context for it. This is going to be off Max Preps. This is basically the standings for the Western Foothills Conference right here. Give me a second to pull this up. This is what it looks like currently right now in the Western Foothills Conference. Hickory in first place at 7-1. Then you have East Lincoln 8-0. Excuse me?
See that?
Hold on a second. Let me
blow it up with your fingers.
Yeah. So there we go. We got Hickory at number 1. They're sitting at 7-1 overall. Then you got East Lincoln at 2 at 8-0. Then Maiden in third place with a 5-2 record. Newton Conover 5-2. Bandy's 4-3. West Iredale 4-3. Fred T. Ford 2-5. And then you have Bunker Hill and North Lincoln rounding out the rest of the conference there at 1 win apiece. So, in this conference, the last few weeks could prove crucial for all of these teams, honestly, when it comes to trying to fight for a position in the playoffs. And I think it's going to mean more for the top 6 teams to get these wins than it will be for the rest of the conference, because these top 6 teams are going to be right there in the middle of the pack And each win's going to be very crucial because it could be the difference between getting a home playoff game versus being on the road in the first round.
That's true. It'll be interesting to see if we're talking. I don't know how long ago it was, but we're talking about a football team in Fred T. Ford that had I believe, had the longest losing streak in the history of the state at one point in time.
Yeah.
And, they got 2 wins now, and they could go for their 3rd this week against a down Bunker Hill team right now. They went out. 4 wins for that group is saying something. And
yeah,
you're talking to a guy that happened to have spent some time there, so I know a little bit about Ford and what they are all about. And I think it's impressive that Coach Ramser's got them winning 2 games, much less anything else. So
yeah,
or 2 of them.
And the Ford and Bunker Hill is going to be a very interesting game because obviously Ford could be on the outside looking in right now in the postseason. So big win this week would definitely bolster their chances of possibly sneaking in the postseason. But Bunker Hill also, over the past couple of weeks, has been playing some good football. They were very competitive last week against Newton Conover, and Newton Conover is doing really good this year. Albert Reed's done a really good job at Bunker Hill this year, getting the Bears improved week to week. And, not every year is going to be dictated by the wins and losses. It usually comes about the growth that you see from the team throughout the season.
Amen. I agree 100%. Coach Reed does a great job of that. And, high school football is up and down like a roller coaster. So you have some good years, you have some not so good years.
Absolutely.
I was real interested in, like Tom, in the St. Stephen's McDowell game because Coach Clark last week, got me really interested in the Titans. So when I got home from Friday night, I made sure to find the highlights of the McDowell Alexander game. And I was suspicious. I was thinking that Alexander was going to win that game, really, because in the competition that McDowell had played, I didn't think they had played. I thought Alexander was probably the best team, even though they were 1-5 that they had played this year, which is odd to say, but it's just the way it is. But I was really impressed with McDowell's athleticism just on the highlights. Their quarterback could really run, and he could throw, and they've got some kids on the outside that look dangerous. So I was really pleased. I mean, I was surprised. McDowell's got some athletes.
So what was the difference in that game? What made Alexander Central win that game over?
Highlight, Tom, but they looked like to me they had a couple of big kids that McDowell couldn't get on the ground when it counted.
That's what
well, you also want to acknowledge too that special teams also played a big part in that win too. Alexander Central obviously kicked the field goal to start off the game. And then later in the game, I think it was in the second half, they took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown to give them the first lead of the game. So something there to kind of give you a bit of something to think about.
Al's passing attack is legit. They've got them running everywhere. I mean, and they've got some speed. It looked like, gosh, I want to be a little cautious. It is highlights, but the quarterback breaks loose and scrambles really well. He's athletic, so it'll be very interesting. It was a St. Stephen's McDowell game. Will be another game. Don't they play this week? We said, that'll be
St. Stephen's McDowell.
That's going to be a game.
Yeah, and depending on the outcome of this week between St. Stephen's and McDowell, that game is essentially going to magnify the importance of the game between Freedom and McDowell for the final week of the season.
Yeah. Well, Freedom still got. Oh, they got South. They got to play Alexander too.
Yeah.
Play
but McDowell's next 3 is St. Stephen's. They got Watauga, and then they end off the season with Freedom.
Oh, mercy! They could go over. They could. I mean, I don't mean they will, but despite that, that was in the times in the past when I've seen glimpses of McDowell, they've just not been that kind of athleticism on the field. I thought proved that, but you never know. I mean, the Alexander football team, you got to be careful with those guys because I know the record don't say it, but just looking at even in the highlights, they're not. They look solid to me, even though the record hasn't gone the way they wanted it. But they're no pushover.
Absolutely. There's a lot of big games this week for playoff positioning and stuff like that. But I don't think we'd really want to consider going really deep on playoff positioning until possibly next week when we have a bit of more consensus of what the playoff picture may look like heading into the last 2 weeks of the season. But just know for the average viewer that is watching this, there are some games with some major implications for most of these teams this week. Most of the games that we talked about have major playoff implications and conference implications moving forward. So,
But we're getting time now where it's trying to, people are figuring out what spot they're going to be in. We're getting to that point now. So it'll be
it'll be interesting, but we probably won't be able to know for sure until maybe after next week is done, or maybe even 2 weeks from now when we're heading into the final week of the season.
One question, Josh, you could help me. So Freedom, that conference, Freedom and Watauga are 6A, right? Who's the 7A? Is that McDowell?
Yeah, McDowell is the 7A in that conference.
That's the only 7A?
Yes, sir.
And then down in the other conference for Crest and those folks, who is are there any 6As in that? Or is that all 7A? I can't.
There's 6As in it, but I'm not 100% sure who the 6A teams are. I think it might be Ashbrook that's the 6A, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that.
I've always heard, the thing I've heard is it's Watauga, Kings Mountain, and Catholic as the better 6A teams in the western part of the state. But then I started looking, I'm like, wait a minute, I guess that means Crest is bigger. I don't know anymore because of these new classifications. But
did you see where Charlotte Catholic got beat 21-0?
Who they get beat by?
Gosh, I can't remember who it is, but I was shocked that they got beat.
Yeah, 21-0. I wonder if they played I don't know. That would surprise me. But I know that's a little out of this coverage area. But
so I want to ask.
Looking ahead, I'm trying to figure out who 6As. I mean,
yeah, if you're 7A and you're the only 7A in your conference, does that, back in the day when you were a 3A, 4A, and you were only had 2 4As, you were kind of guaranteed that you were going to get in the playoffs. Are they the seeding now? Does that change everything? Does it matter that you're a 7, 6A?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know for a fact they're not, it really depends on like the schedule, like the record and the RPI system of it.
Automatic.
It wasn't like, if a team has a losing record, wins a portion of their conference, that they get like a 7 or 8 seed. I think it's different this year to where it's more based on the RPI and the overall schedule rather than just, locking you in as an 8 seed or, the lowest conference champion seed that used to be in the past.
But they have automatic bids. In other words,
that's what
1 or 2 in your league. In other words, a 7A couldn't finish last in their league and automatically qualify for the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
I would think so.
That would be terrible.
But there's going to be some new rules that come into play this year for playoff seeding, as always when it comes to the realignment process, and we'll probably dig more into that later when we get some more information on it and get closer to the postseason when we have a better idea as to what the playoff field's going to look like. But I know one thing that they did announce a couple weeks ago, that the playoff brackets will be coming out on Monday, the week of the playoff game, because of staffing issues with the NCHSAA. And I want to ask.
That sounds crazy to me. That's crazy.
So, as a coach, how much does that affect being able to game plan for your opponent that Friday night?
It's huge.
How about the team that's got to travel? They don't know where they're going.
Yeah,
that seems crazy. It don't even seem plausible that the high school association, and couldn't figure that out over the weekend. That don't make sense to me. I don't understand why. It just seems crazy to me.
Once again, they make decisions and don't really.
Does the Football Coaches Association not take that role and do the pairings? Or something. If they truly have a staffing issue, they got to go to other championships. Either they're going to have to put in double or triple time, or get the get the coaches association,
Yeah.
the all coaches association to do it, and appoint a committee, and they can put out the pairings. They got one guy that can at least check them at the league or the high school association. But to put off all these teams and not know what the brackets are till Monday, it also hurts. You need to get those brackets out in the media. I mean, it needs, that needs to be done as quickly as Saturday if possible, but certainly no later than Sunday. And Monday is ludicrous to me. It don't make sense from a media. It don't make sense from coaches and team players and parents.
Well, and I will say this too. Every year during this playoff thing, you got credible media outlets like High School OT that release their playoff projections, and more times than not, High School OT is very accurate with what the playoff pairings are. And they usually release it maybe a day or so before the NCHSAA releases their official playoff brackets.
Yeah, I get it. It needs to be official. I mean, you need to. I mean, teams can guess, but that means coaches have not. I guess they'll have to do 2 or 3 game plans on Sunday, Tom, and then be ready to.
No doubt, they'll have to get ready for two or three different teams.
I mean, I guess coaches will trade films, but that's nuts. That ain't right. That ain't right to the coaches or the players or the parents or anybody. That ain't right. The league, I call it the league because that's what they call it down south, call it a high school league, but the association, whatever they call it, they need to figure that out. And they got time.
Let it happen again, or fix it now because it's
now. 3 weeks to go. Okay, somebody's got to get here Saturday. We got to get everything. At least get it done by Sunday. Bring some people in. Bring help in. There's older coaches. You, Tom. I mean, or somebody go down there and help.
If I'm going, you're going.
I ain't going. No. No, it'll end up being my fault when it's messed up. I ain't doing.
I'll make sure if you guys have to go get involved in that situation, I'll give you guys a camera to record the experience because I know that's going to be reality television right there. That's just going to be top-notch quality stuff.
Give him a pair of glasses.
At the old school, put them in order, and if there's ties, draw them out and flip a coin like we used to do, and that worked fine. But RPIs and
there's a guy that used to run that we just had passed just a couple of days ago. Jim Taylor used to be in charge of that, and was the guy that was the buffer.
Yeah,
with all ties and everything.
And I'm sure the Football Coaches Association.
I just can't believe we fix that problem for the coaches.
They got a committee. They can put a committee together overnight and have representatives from the East, the West, the North, whatever, and all classifications meet down there in Chapel Hill for a whole day, and they probably want to do it and get it done because the information's all in Friday.
Especially to get it for the coaches so they can do their job.
I mean, and you're going to say you're going to hold up the football brackets because you have to attend championships. That's fine and dandy, but you're going to have to find a way to get. I believe I can't believe it. That's not catching buckets of, what over that. That's.
Well, and one more change this year too, due to the classification changes, is that state championship games this year will now start on Thursdays, and teams will probably not know where the site location of the state championship will be until the Monday of that state championship game.
They're still trying to find them, aren't they? I heard Lenore Ryan's going to host too.
Really?
I heard that, Tom. Now I'm not going to say that for sure, but I heard a source told me, said, I think.
Well, that'd be fun.
Well, they got to have 8 of them, so they can't. That's a lot of places,
Well, Lenore Ryan would be a great venue for high school football. It would be.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It's big enough, but small enough to still have
the. Still got that.
Big state that look terrible.
It's still quaint enough to be a really good high school experience, but big enough to host all those games.
Maybe they'll decide to go home and away like they used to, but without that something to it. In other words, the East gets it one year, the West gets it the other. I don't know if you guys, you're not old enough, Josh, but I am. Used to be state games were still at the home team, and the home team was determined every year. The East and the West would trade slots. So one year it'd be the East turn to host it, and so you might travel there's a little more travel that way. Sometimes it wasn't, but the atmospheres are great.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those big stadiums are cool. People, when it first started, everybody's like, "Oh, that's neat. The kids get to go play." But then, as it's worn on, all I'm seeing is vast stadiums open, and it don't feel. To me, I've gone to those games. It don't feel the same, as a well attended packed stadium. And I think
I do remember when we used to go to Chapel Hill for the day,
yes,
and that was fun.
that was because, and you had bigger crowds too because you could go and see all the games.
That's
And people would do that, and so you had bigger crowds. Now they've had to spread them out.
It's good.
I don't care how big your high school is; they can't take enough to fill up, or even halfway, or get 20% full of Keenan and Carter. Even Groves. It just looks odd. I'd love to like North Ryan, like you said, that'd be perfect because that stadium would be full, but yet could hold what they needed to.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Absolutely. Well, coaches, I appreciate you giving your insight on that stuff because.
Thing to say.
Okay, well, take the floor, Tom.
I know Coach Mack.
Yeah.
Legend in Burke County, and I don't want to call what I am in Burke County, but I'm visiting somebody this weekend that may be the biggest celebrity in Burke County when she used to work there. So I just want to turn this camera around and have everybody say hello to my mother, Coral.
Hello,
Coral.
Hello. Hi.
I can't.
Everybody.
Are you in Charlotte, Tom?
I'm in Charlotte visiting my mother, and my brother worked in Burke County for about 8 to 10 years, and she used to take care of all the homeschool kids, and she's
Now she's taking
beloved.
over.
She's beloved in Burke County.
She's taking care of the oldest homeschool kid, you. Hey, she made you back cheese yet?
You're exactly right. Why do you think I come visit her? She still takes.
Why?
I'm homeschooled right now.
Yeah, you need to go back and repeat anything doing with math because you didn't get it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Enough of that. We're gone.
All right, Coach. Well, we're going to go ahead and call it a night here for Big Red Live. We appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Once again, Big Red Live sponsored by Blue 42 and Countryside Barbecue. Coaches, any last words before we take it out for tonight?
Call me, Tom. We'll decide where we're going. I might get on down there to that.
I'm going to see you down in Denver this Friday, Coach.
That's a long way, boys. I'm telling you.
Well, Tom could drive you.
Good place to go eat. It'll be fun.
Yeah, you got a good barbecue joint down there in Denver, don't you?
Where is it? Do you know a name of one?
I don't know, but we could find one.
Is there a B-42s in Denver?
Josh, you don't throw that stuff out randomly. Don't joke about barbecue. That ain't a joking matter now.
It's like you told me, Coach. A good coach knows good barbecue spots wherever they go.
Wherever you played at. I never played in no Denver.
That's right. We know where Shelby is.
Yes, we do. There's two excellent places. I even know Rutherford County, but I don't know what is Denver. That's Lincoln County. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna call the AD at East Lincoln and get us a place.
Maybe you'll comments down there telling us where the good barbecue joint. Everybody's got a good barbecue joint. Where the good barbecue joint is in Denver.
What? Everybody get on the Big Red Sports Network and tell us where there's a barbecue place.
Or close to Denver.
If I were you, just ask Josh Coffey. He probably knows his barbecue places.
Josh Coffey knows a lot of those places because he's been with us, probably.
That's a good one.
All right. Yep. Have a good one.
All right, coaches.
I'll call you back.
See y'all next week. Bye, everybody. See y'all next week.